My name is Adrian. I'm part of the technical evangelist team. I'm focusing mainly in the Nordics myself, but as I say, I've been going a bit everywhere to support the global evangelist team. I have a particular past is that I've been using AWS for about 10 years now, almost 11 years from the very first services. So I've been lucky enough to work with businesses and startups that always embrace the cloud. And that's really an interesting thing to have it grow from the very early days. And just to recap a little bit about this track is sponsored by Intel. Right? So the entire day has been sponsored nicely by Intel. So thank you for the sponsor. It's very important for us to have those sponsors there. Otherwise, those events could barely take place. It takes actually quite much money to organize all that. A couple of things I want to talk about today. First, the agenda. So we start with the State of the Union, which is a semi-high level. In fact, we're also going to have demos, and I'm happy to answer questions as well. So feel free to make it the level you want. We only have pretty much an hour, so I'm going to have to ditch some questions if there are too many of them. But we start with an overview of what's AI, especially what's AI on AWS, how we've come here, and what kind of the spectrum of services, and what can you do with it, and what our customers doing with it. After that, we're going deep. And Julian Simon, who is the specialist evangelist for AI, will take over. And we're going to go through deep learning with Apache MXNet. And that's also kind of an overview, still deep dive. It's a 300 level session on MXNet. Then we're going to go and talk about how to build chatbots application with very interesting demos and examples by Ian Massingham, who is leading the evangelist team worldwide. Then we go back to Julian with machine learning. Especially this session is going to be SageMaker. Right? SageMaker is a tool, a service we launched at reInvent this year. I'm going to talk about it as well. But this session is going to be a deep dive on SageMaker, how to take AI to the level that Fortune 500 companies are doing today. And you see there's a change here. I need to explain what happened. We have those deep lens devices, which we launched at reInvent kind of as a preview, and it's a very interesting use case of AI at the edge. But they're all fried. There's been a live update, and they haven't survived it. So that was last night. You can imagine there was a bit of panic there, but luckily Julian is full of content, and he offered and he suggested we go even deeper on MXNet to end the session. He said that level of the session is going to be a 666, so devil session, so super deep dive. So if you're into understanding really the ins and outs of MXNet, I really strongly suggest you to go there. Julian is excellent on that. All right, let's deep dive. So we've been doing AI at Amazon for pretty much 20 years. In fact, we started experimenting with AI when we had massive distribution centers, and you can see a distribution center, when you need to give goods to people as fast as possible, you need to organize those. And it's not a trivial exercise. In fact, it's pretty difficult exercise. So we've been using AI, and especially robots, to help us do that. And nowadays, we're even able to deliver content and goods in about pretty much 30 minutes from the delivery time in certain cities. And all that because of AI. So robots in the fulfillment centers, what they're doing is they're optimizing the route of how the good is positioned based on how likely the region is going to buy that good, and then is putting it out there and then optimizing the route so that there's no collision between robots. In fulfillment centers, there's about 50,000 of those, right, running around like crazy. So it's pretty substantial. The second thing is when we launched Amazon.com, that was really early days, we experimented when we started to have millions of copies of books with very basic algorithm, recommendation algorithm. Now, the entire website, Amazon.com, is powered by AI, from recommendation for you, your friends, all that stuff. Basically, is all those that you see, all those layers are microservices that are powered by AI, that are giving recommendation for you and optimizing the page for your own experience. So if you're two different users, you will have two different UIs. It's very similar to what Netflix says about its services. There's not one UI, there's hundreds of millions of UIs, so one UI for each of their customers, simply because everything in their UI is a microservices that is doing a recommendation for that particular users. And if you are interested to understand how this recommendation evolved, we just released a white paper about it, about how the recommendation engine at Amazon has evolved in 2 decades. It's an extremely interesting read, just for the sake of it, if you're interested into AI. Especially recommendation engines are a big part of AI, so it's a good read. You probably also heard about the Alexa. So Alexa is a toy, kind of, a voice interface toy that you can talk to, and this is entirely powered by AI as well. The voice recognition, the indentation, all these systems under the hood, how to converse with it, what to extract from the sentence you're saying, all this kind of thing is powered by AI. And some of these engines that are powering Alexa have been extracted as a service, and we're going to talk about it as well. So you can yourself build chatbots with the engines that are powering Alexa, called X. Right? And finally, there's also robots, right? So these are some of the things we do with AI. We optimize as well the last mile delivery. In fact, those robots, those drones, they are doing the last mile delivery with machine vision, so entirely powered by machine vision, and the same algorithm that are powering autonomous driving cars. Only thing is in the air. So you also probably heard yesterday, or with the new, we had an experiment called Amazon Go, which was only open for Amazon employees in Seattle, which is an experience. It's a shop where you just enter, and without any cashier, without anything, you just have your mobile phone, and the shop recognizes you and tracks you, and then as soon as you put something in your cart, it will track what you take, what you put back, things like this. And we've been having this in beta for Amazon employees for about 1.5 years. Every employee has tried to trick the system, put 2 chocolate bars on top of each other. I think that's the old stories. Every time an Amazon employee says that he tries to cheat the system, is with chocolate for some reason. So yesterday we opened it to public in Seattle. So if you're in Seattle and you are interested into seeing what can be done with computer vision, it's definitely worth the trip. So all those technologies, we didn't want to keep them for us, right? The Amazon way is we develop technologies and then we put them for our customers to be used. So this is what we're going to talk about it. And today, really, our mission number 1 is really to put all those AI and machine learning algorithm and service in the hand of every developer. What we call that the democratization of technology, in fact, is that we want anyone, even a student in the garage, to have access to the same technology as Fortune 500 companies, right? And this is really massive in terms of the capability of disrupting the industry. And this is how our stack, machine learning stack, AI, and you're gonna hear me talk move between AI and ML. I think it's a massive discussion we have in the field, is what do we consider machine learning and AI? In fact, machine learning is the bigger group of everything that allows the use of algorithm to improve customer experience, and AI is a segment of that, and then deep learning is very, very deep into neural network, right? So, but basically, I'm jumping from one to another. It doesn't mean that we talk about machine learning. In general, I always talk about AI or ML in the same idea. So we have three types of services, right? We have high-level services. These are really targeted for developers that do not necessarily have a PhD in scientific computing. And these are things that you can get started pretty much right away. And I'm going to show you how to use the API, for example. So application services are there using APIs. Then you have platform services where you can basically do it yourself, but you still don't have to manage the infrastructure. You can have your machine learning platform scale automatically. This is where SageMaker is sitting. And then you have access to the deep down infrastructures, down to the instance, very large P3 instance or C5 instances where you can really do it yourself, right? And make a system where you really take your algorithm, tune it, and scale it yourself. And in fact, in our customers, we have customers in the entire spectrum. So, maybe the most popular currently is, of course, the application services, because they become very, very easy to use. And I'll show you how to do that. And there are plenty customers using ML on AWS today. And maybe you're familiar with a customer in Sweden called Crew. How many of you heard Crew? Crew. Only one, Crew. Maybe I just pronounced very badly. I'm sorry, my Swedish accent is absolutely terrible. Crew, what they do is they want to help reduce the line for medical care, right? Especially how fast you can get a doctor. So what they do, they allow you to get an appointment online and talk to a doctor through the application. And the doctor is using systems that are powered by AI to know which questions best ask the customer based on some of the things that you're saying to the doctor. Everything is entered on the systems, and then there are recommendation engines to say this might be the best question to ask for that patient. It's not replacing the doctor; it's adding information to the doctor to really enable the doctor to target very well the patient with good recommendation. And as I said, there's really tons of companies, really well known from Slack to Ratio, to Zylo, Fraud, Twilo. All those companies are somehow using AI. Also FINRA, which is pretty amazing use case of AI, where they download the entire set of transactions, what happened in a day in the stock market, and try to find fraudulent activities there. So very interesting way of using machine learning today. So let's take a look first at the high-level service, application service stack. And really, those are API-driven services. The first one is Rekognition. Rekognition is a service that you give a photo, and you can target request objects and scenes out of it. You can do facial analysis, you can do face comparison, celebrities, things. But now you can also do text recognition text in photo recognition, right? So how it works is, for example, that case, we give a photo of an object or a scene, and the API will return you a JSON object, which looks like this. Well, this is a formatted JSON object, but with a label, for example, your city, and then a percentage, which is the accuracy or the probability for the object to be in the scene, right? And then it's up to you really to decide until what threshold do you accept those tags, right? So the standards currently is between 75%, and then I still see customers using 50% very accurately without so many problems. And this is a very good way to tag very large collection of images. The facial analysis is returning on top of some of the facial attributes, but also the location of those facial attributes in the image, right? So you can do overlay on the image using, for example, OpenCVs, libraries, and things like this. And you can know some of the emotions of the person on that photo as well. We just launched as well one which is called crowd mode face detection. So when we launched initially the face recognition, it was only for 10 people. And this is in India when I was doing one of my talk. And you can see it recognized not everybody because the quality of the photo first was terrible. It was the front of my camera. But I'm super surprised, though, that still recognize some people in the end there when there's only a couple of pixels that show the contrast between the eyes and the nose. But if you read a little bit how face recognition algorithms are working, they don't need much information. In fact, they calculate the position and the relation of eyes compared to the nose and the mouth. So they are very accurate even at very far distance. We have customers that have managed to push this to 300 meters. So a very interesting way of using AI. You can do facial search as well with that system. So that means you can upload a collection of photos that are not necessarily celebrities, and you can tag some of those faces with names. Right? So that will become your own collection. And then you can upload photos, and then we'll do face recognition based on that collection. So it's very good way also of tuning that service for your own use cases. We've done image moderation from the beginning, and this has been used a lot in many of the services that are allowing photographs or people to upload photos to avoid having troubles. Right? So in India, a company called Sanji is similar to the Tinder of here. Also, they do groupings. They're using Rekognition to do image moderation very successfully. And we also added recently celebrity recognition. That was like last year. So if you have collections of movies and images of celebrities, you can also tag them like that. And as I say, we recently added this text in image, and this is very interesting because then you can start to do plate recognition for your cars, which was the first use case that people were asking when using Rekognition, right? So this was really one of the most asked feature for the service to support. And what it does is very similar to face recognition. Is returns the bounding box of where the text is and each letter in that box. So you can also do an overlay of it. This is how the API looks like. It's very simple. You just call the AWS is the CLI, is the command line interface, and then you can call the recognition service with detect labels, right? And then you pass your reference to an image, which is in that case sitting in an S3 bucket. Right. So this is a very good way that if you have image stored in your S3 bucket, that you can automatically tag them. Very large collection, and we have customers that have done that in one day, index the entire set of their video collections, and I'll tell you how they've done it, and also images. So they've done the video like this, that they extracted basically every iframe, every 8 seconds on the video, and then send that to Rekognition. Now you don't have to do this anymore because we launched a service that supports video, and I'll show it to you. This is another API that returns the face bounding box, for example, that what I explained, so that you can do overlay on the face. And we also return the position of each of the attributes: the eyes, the nose, the mouth. So you can do very precise overlays. This is a use case of a very interesting use case of using Rekognition, and something that really touched a lot of people. So I wanted to share that with you. Is Help MyReduce, which is a foundation or NGO that is trying to help find missing people, right? And they've used Rekognition to find people in crowded places, right? To see if there would be a matching face. And they've managed very few weeks after the launch of that, of using Rekognition, to already return missing people, right? That were in bad human trafficking schemes, right? So very interesting use case. There's the link there if you're interested to read how they've done that. And it's a tool that is used by law enforcement nowadays as well. So this is a service that has been launched and that is now GA, so globally available for you to use. And that's Rekognition Video. So what it does is very similar to the photo one, but you just upload a reference to your video in an S3 bucket, and then the service will take that video, asynchronously analyze that video, and return a bunch of information about the objects that are in the video, the persons that are there, some celebrities, some person tracking as well. So you can see a moving bounding box on that person in the videos. So you can also do overlay over that video. It's a very interesting service. And this is totally powered by AI in many different ways. We do some context analysis first, and then feature extractions. And each of those different features has a different AI service under the hood powering it. So let me show you a video, because I think it's much better to do videos. So this is the Rekognition portal. Everyone sees, right? You can tell me if you don't see them. So as I said, you can right from the console start playing around with images. So you can also upload your own images if you want. Let's see if I have some photos here. Yep. So you can upload some photos, and the service will detect right away what it found there. I have some other photos here. If the network decides to work, exactly. All right. Let's try again. So it's pretty accurate. In fact, there's a lot more tags that are returned here, and you can see the response here in JSON. So it's a good way to test the system as well if you want. As I said, you can have facial analysis as well. Upload some photos here. I don't know if I have photos of myself. Maybe not. Oh, yeah, I have one here. Yeah, so it's pretty accurate. The demo one is very similar, so I already took the liberty to upload the video because I didn't want to use the stock video that is Jeff Bezos, and so I uploaded my own video. I'll show you what it is. It's actually a very nice video as well. Can I have the sound? Or can I have the sound, please? Okay. All right, let me move to my own speaker. What do you hear if I put my stuff like this? All right, cool. Good. Let's see if that works. Okay, well, this is the video without having to hear the sound there. Oh, sorry. There. So it's quite a high resolution video, and it's a very interesting use case actually to do the video recognition, because it switched from different images and things like this. So, and you see the service has already extracted a bunch of objects and activities in forms of tags. And if you click on those, you can see where in the photos they are. So for example, if I want to focus on people, I can directly here see on the people where they are. Or if you want to see red sky, for example, here, there's a red sky. So it's a very interesting service to send your own videos and start indexing your videos. But here there are no celebrities, right? But you can also download from the servers the response in JSON. But how it works, the API, you send a video and it returns you an ID, which is a job ID because it's asynchronous. And then after that, it will you have to query the job ID to get the JSON response when the job is done. All right, so it's very simple, very easy to use, and you can see all the activities that have been objects and activities that have been extracted from that video. That's pretty cool. We've made a lot of progress. So those are when I talk about high-level services, those are services that we are training ourselves, right? So you have nothing there to do to improve the model. We are constantly training the model and improving them. In fact, every time I do that demo, it's improved and become much more accurate. So at the end of the year, I suppose it's going to be perfect. All right, I will move it there because yeah. So these are, as I say, the API returns you a job ID, and then you get the label detection by job ID at the end, which return the JSON object. So very simple to use, and there are already customers that are using it. In fact, those were launch customers. We just launched this service at reInvent this year. reInvent, when I talk about it, it's our big conference at Las Vegas where we announce tons of services in 3 or 4 days. And this year there was 30,000 people. We launched 20 plus services. So pretty interesting place. Another very high-level service that got a lot of traction, and for a big reason, is Poly, which does text-to-speech conversion. So you just give a string of text, and it will return you an MP3 or a stream that an audio stream that you can then start using. And that MP3 you can reuse it as long as you want. There's no limit on how much you can reuse it. So if you just make the API request once, get the MP3, then you can reuse it as long as you want. And the service is pretty cool. Let me play that.
Jag heter Astrid och läser upp det som skrivs här.
How is that? Yeah, it's all right. It's good. Nice. Good. And I'll show you a little bit how this works. The service support SSML, which is a markup language for text-to-speech services, so that you can tell, for example, if it's a phone number, instead of a number, you don't want to have to say, my phone number is 6,628,000. You really want that number to be spelled the same if you want to spell names. So there's very wide support of a variety of market of syntax speech syntax that you can use to improve your service. And let me play that one.
The price of this book is 45 euros.
I think it's always funny. And I just put 60%. But this is really a way to tell the service to reduce the voice. So it's something that is supported there. Again, the API is very easy to use. You just pass the text or a reference to a text file, and then the service will return you a JSON object with that particular text. Or you can also pass directly the SSML text file. One of the biggest customer of Poly is Duolingo. In fact, I was one of the first as well. And how many of you know Duolingo? Yeah, right. It's a very, very cool app that allows you to learn languages. And I was as surprised as you probably to hear that it was powered by Poly. In fact, I had no clue until they went public about it. And I've been using it to learn Spanish unsuccessfully, not because of the app, it's just because I'm terrible at learning languages. But I do like the app a lot. Another use case of Poly, and this is a use case that I will also present at the serverless track later, is the way customers are starting to use Poly to convert websites into podcasts. Right. So when they upload their websites or their new content, there are systems or services that automatically detect change, take the text, send that to Poly, and then add the availability in the podcast or simply an icon on the website, so that if you don't have time to read, you can still hear the content. Or if you are not capable of reading, simply because you are blind, for example, you can have the content being spoken to you, which is a very good use case. So that usage of Poly using Lambda, a scheduled Lambda function that calls Poly every time there's change in the text in the S3 bucket, has become very, very popular. Another service that we just launched is called Amazon Translate. And Amazon Translate, as the name suggests, does translation from text, from English to other language. For currently, we're supporting, if I reckon, 8 pairs of languages to start with, and we're gonna roll out more as we go. And this is what you can do. English to French, for example. I'm French, so I could verify the system. It works really accurately. I was very surprised. I was trying to trick the system as well with some weird words, but it was pretty accurate. And it's powered by deep learning, so there's a deep learning algorithm that are very powerful for that, sec2rec, that maybe Julian will talk about, because it's available in SageMaker, so you can start playing with, for example, English to German translation. It takes you all the steps how you can do this, and it's a service that uses very similar deep learning algorithm, right? Those are the default learning algorithm for services like this. 12 language pairs currently, sorry. And the API, again, is very simple to use. You just send the text, and then the source language, and then the target language. Currently, you can even now omit the source language. Will detect automatically when you send it, and then it will translate the text in the target language that you're looking for. And this is what I was trying to trick the system. When you say "what's up" in English, very easily you would translate it as "what's looking upward," right? But in French, you translate that with "what's 9," which is totally what is new. What's 9? Like 9. So it's what is new in a way in French. So it's very well translated there. So it means that the service has been context aware, and you understand when to do the translation very nicely. I'll demo that to you. I have a little toy app there, which is a simple HTML page that it's sitting on my computer, and that talks. So for example, and I want to translate that in Spanish, so I can first.
Hello, my name is Adrian.
Cool, and I want to translate that. Hola, mi nombre es Adrián.
Hola, mi nombre es Adrian.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, you can start. This is really 3 lines of code, so there's nothing much to do. But it's very, very easy to do to start using. And there's lots of customers starting to use those services like this. And there are already customers using that service. In fact, if you're using hotels.com, you are using a website that is most likely translated for local language using Translate as well. And Essentia is also using that service for their services. If you want to know more about customers, you can go on that website, on that link, on that URL. There are all the use cases that are interesting. Why and how they use the services. In fact, it's very interesting use cases because sometimes they use technology in a way that we even wouldn't have forecasted. And if you know a little bit how AWS work, we work backward, so we take customer feedbacks. In fact, our roadmaps are 90% customer feedbacks. So when customers start using technology in a way that we didn't forecast, it very often affects the way we then develop that technology. Lambda is very good example of that effect. We never ever expected that it would go the way it went. So a new service as well that we launched at reInvent this year is Transcribe. This is to extract information from text, right? So is to convert speech to text. That one. So you give an audio file, and it will return you the transcript of it. Right? So you can also use it for videos and for archive things like this. There's again multi-language support. It's should recognize pretty much everything there as well. And there's a bunch of launch customers there. Right. Another service that I want to demo as well is Amazon Comprehend here, and this one does natural language processing, and it's extract information from text. Right. So you give your text and your documents to Comprehend, and it will extract and returns the entities that it finds in that document, the key phrases, the language detection, and a very interesting part is the sentiment. So it will return whether that particular entity has a positive, a negative, a neutral sentiment, which can be very useful, for example, companies if they want to index or what people are saying online about them. Right? So you would get all the Twitter feeds, send that to Comprehend, and extract the sentiment, do a sentiment analysis on that very, very simply. I'm going to do a demo about that use case as well on one of the serverless track. The service supports extreme large data sets. So if you don't want to send one document at a time, you can give a data set location to the service, and it will do topic modeling, for example, on that very large data set. And that's very interesting if you have massive amount of documents stored in your archive, and then you want to classify them further on. I'll demo that as well. So let's go into Comprehend. So let's take I don't want to use the text then. AWS Go, something like this. So let's take that text, for example, and feed this to Comprehend and see what we can get out of it. Right, so this is quite a fairly big block of information, but the service has extracted organizations, some titles, some other organizations, some events, dates, so a bunch of things that you can start using. Then those are the key phrases, the increasing popular programming language. I suppose that's Go. And the language as well, and you can see also the sentiment there, which is in that case very neutral. But if I would say let's do that, you see the positive here become, and he is recognized as a key phrase there, an entity, as a person, which is good because he's human. It's great. So very interesting service to use. As I say, is also part of those high-level services that we are constantly training, constantly improving. So every time we do demos about it, it's also improving. So you can start using those as well. The API is straightforward to use. Is also very similar. Returning the. You can detect particular sentiment, or you can call detect entities, detect particular entity or particular things you want in the text, and then it will return the JSON object for that particular entity. Again, some customers that are using it heavily, hotels.com, which they use it to understand reviews, right? Reviews from customers, being able to detect fraudulent reviews, but also pay attention for very bad review for the customers, and then they will tell the hotels that there's very, very bad review, so you should do something about it, or things like this. So it's a very good way to manage reviews at large scale, automate that. Washington Post does that as well for reviews on the websites. Okay. So one of the services again that we talked as well is Amazon Lex, the high-level service, and there's going to be a deep dive on that, and it's a service that allows you to build conversational bots. Right. So very simple to use. There's five things that you need to understand. The intent is what you're trying to do, and then utterance is really how do you invoke things that you want to be done, and then slots, prompts, and fulfillment that are part of the text. So the slots are what you want to get information from, and then how do you ask the user that information, which is the prompt, and then fulfillment is the end query. And Ian Messingham is going to do a deep dive on that, so I'm not talking too much about it. The only thing is, what I can say, it's integrating with a lot of service, and now we see people integrating Lex between very interesting services like Salesforce, Marketo, or QuickBooks, Sendex as well. So let's go a little bit deeper on the platform and talk about platform services, right? These are services like Amazon EMR, the Elastic Map Reduce, and this is pretty old services already, which allows you to run at scale very large Hadoop cluster, so that you can run, for example, Spark, HBase, Presto, things like this, which are systems that supports machine learning libraries. And one in particular that is very, very popular is Spark, the machine learning lib from Spark in particular, that allows you to run quite a comprehensive set of libraries. And when you look at Spark, these are kind of the default library that you would have already algorithm for, so that you can adapt. So it's a platform. You just launch EMR, select Spark, and then you can start using machine learning libraries there. Very easy to use. And especially people use that for doing classification and regression at large scale. So for example, and I will talk about a use case right now, which is Zillow. And Zillow is a company in the US that does pricing of the houses. So when a user uploads a house or wants to sell his house, so he's uploading the location, some images, a lot of information about the house, the size of the rooms, all this kind of things. And all that information goes into a machine learning model that gives an estimate of that price that you can get in the particular location. And in fact, has become so good that it has pretty much become the de facto standard of pricing a house in the US now, right? And the service launched a few years ago and has totally shaped the housing industries upside down, because they have become very, very good at estimating the price of the houses. And they've done that by using EMR and by creating models of all the information from last few years of all the houses that were sold in particular areas, what were the attributes of the houses and things like this. So very large computations to create the model, and they recompute the model regularly, of course, to improve that model. So very interesting use case that you also can find online, how to use EMR and machine learning libraries from Spark. One of the services that we launched on the platform level just lately at reInvent is Amazon SageMaker. And if you know a little bit AWS services, we used to have a machine learning services, and SageMaker pretty much fixes all the issues that customers were having with machine learning services, which were, being able to tune the models to their needs, right? So SageMaker has 4 flavors, right? There's 0 setup first, so you start the instance, you can access the SageMaker console, and you will have a notebook. Notebook is Python service that allows you to write code and interactively build your machine learning algorithm, for example. You pay by the second, so very interesting as well, that if you don't use it, you don't pay. So it's very cool service. And there are a few stages. The first one is you build. So that means you write your notebook in SageMaker. Then you train the system. Once you've trained the system, you need to deploy it. So in SageMaker, you can do 2 things. You can deploy your SageMaker endpoint, where you will have an endpoint, an API where you can call your model that you've just trained in SageMaker, or you can copy your model into S3 so that you can use S3 as a means to distribute the model further to other services like Lambda or Greengrass machine learning as well. So this is a circle like this that you can use, and there are of course customers using it, and I just quickly want to demo how it works because it's such a, in my opinion, very great service. So this is the front page. You go on SageMaker, you go on the dashboard, and you say, for example, you want to create a new notebook instance. You talk the name, you say Devday. You can select the instance type. All right. I'll start a medium because I don't want to train crazy stuff. You can upload your encryption key as well, or use one that is in KMS. So if you want to encrypt your data at rest, and then you just start the instance, right? So it takes a couple of seconds to start the instance, like roughly 30 seconds. But I already created one, so I'll just use this one as a reference. And you saw I just click on open. What it does is I don't have to do any SSH in the instance or anything like this. It redirects me directly now on the instance on my Jupyter notebook. This is how you will arrive in SageMaker. And the cool thing is you have lots of sample notebooks. So these are my own notebooks, right? So these are stuff that I started to play with. But very interesting services or examples here. For example, we have put all the Amazon algorithm, what we're using on a daily basis. And for example, you can see our image classification algorithm, and there's a few of them. And each of those have a notebook that you can start reading from scratch how we're doing it. And then there's the code that you can modify for yourself, so that you can playing with the service, right, and really learn how things are done. And this is very, to be honest, the best way to learn and get an understanding of what you can do with AI. And I'm not a data scientist at all, but I managed to do a lot of cool stuff with it, and especially learned a lot of things, which was great. So one of the things I've played with is it's creating hot dogs, detect hot dogs from or not. Have you seen the show on TV that is called Silicon Valley, where one of the guy created the startup, which was an application that was detecting hot dogs? So this is one of those things that I was trying to figure out. And that model used a bunch of things from MXNet, Gluon, which is also a service. Julian is going to talk about it. But very simple to use services where I do something a bit different here. I don't train a model from scratch, or use a model that is pre-trained model from a zoo, and I just modify the parameters, tune it for my own use cases for detecting hot dogs. So you can go, so it's very interesting. You see here it was not the hot dog, and then as soon as you do the training and you tune the system for yourself, you can detect that this is not a hot dog, and then at the end this is a hot dog. So it's a very interesting way to use and to test things. As I say, you also see here that instead of creating an endpoint, I'm actually deploying those models into S3, and you could see the name of the bucket is DeepLens, so it's something that I want to deploy on DeepLens to make a demo, but since the DeepLens is fried, I can't do that today. Cool. And the low stack, this is really for the hardcore when you have a good understanding of AI and deep learning algorithm, or if you have data scientists in your company that want to get started at creating things from by hand, right? And this is, again, this is where you're going to have access to insane instances like the P3 instance, which is powered by the V100 Tesla GPUs, which gives you 1 petaflop of computation. So it's pretty insane instance. And another one is something that is very, very important to know as well, is we have an Amazon machine instance, an AMI, which is only dedicated to deep learning. So that AMI has all the frameworks by default installed there, TensorFlow, MXNet, Caffe, PyTorch, so that you can launch that AMI and start using those frameworks. Very similarly, they have notebooks, Python notebooks, so you can start experimenting with different type of framework. The only thing is you have an AMI, right? And whereas SageMaker, you don't have to manage the infrastructure. But again, these are great if you want to have access to very hardcore instances like the P3 instance to do massive training. And finally, this little beast that we just launched at reInvent, it's not yet on the market, but it's going to be targeting developers how to integrate AI and machine learning, and especially this use case of training your models in the cloud and then deploying it at the edge on your Internet of Things devices, because this is where the cloud is going, and this is where this year, in my opinion, gonna be big. We saw IoT 2 years ago, AI last year, and now it's really the convergence of both. So I'm pushing AI at the edge, and this DeepLens is really for developers to get their hands on that use cases as well. And finally, a very interesting thing that we launched is the Machine Learning Lab, Amazon Machine Learning Lab, and these are human resources. So it's a lab we provide for some of our customers. So if you have an extremely interesting use case and you don't have the machine learning expertise in your company, you can request the machine learning lab to come and help you. There's going to be people coming to your companies, machine learning scientists from Amazon, and to help you get started with machine learning and use cases. So do some brainstorming, do modeling, do some teaching, courses, and things like this. And customers have already leveraged that. Johnson & Johnson, Toyota as well, and of course the Washington Post. As a summary, what I can say is, what kind of I explained at the beginning, is we're really witnessing the democratization of AI, right? Because, as I say, there are services that give you insane amount of power. For example, poly recognition video, translate, comprehend, transcribe, all those things that are able to give you a lot more information on the data that sits in your storage, right? And as we all say, data is gold. So if you can understand that data and give meaning to that data, it's definitely very good competitive advantage, because then you can either offer that data internally or externally to your customers to further improve their experience. And remember, there's 3 levels, so you don't have to be a data scientist to get started with AI. In fact, you should start from the top to the bottom and get your hands on what are the possible possibilities. And on that note, I'd like to say just go build, because that's the only thing, right? You have access to the exact same technology as Fortune 500 companies, so there's no excuse. And you guys in Nordics are pretty insane at building stuff. So there's there's going to be someone creating cool stuff. So thank you very much for coming to this session, and have a good end of the day. Thanks.